So now let's have a look at the requirements of the hybrid framework, which is the combination of the data driven as well as the keyword driven framework. Now what's there in the keyword driven framework and what's there in the data driven framework? Well, in the data driven framework, all the data is parameterized, that is, it is being read from some external source, and most of the times it is the Excel file. Using Selenium, you can even make your hybrid framework as well. Now for example, let me show you my data sheet, the data sheet for the hybrid framework. Say for example, we have this data file with us which contains a sheet named test cases sheet, which actually lists all the test cases that you have in your framework. And the website which I am taking for the hybrid framework is the zoho.com website, and I have created some test cases for the Zoho account. Now say for example, in my test cases sheet I will be listing all my test cases, and then I have the run mode column, which signifies whether you want to run the test case or not. Right, and then what we have actually done is we have actually differentiated the test cases based on the suites. If I show you, I have all these 3 Excel files into which I have differentiated my test cases. Like say for example, for the lead test, there is one suite for the lead test for which we have different test cases: create lead, convert lead, and delete lead. Similarly, I have one login suite which will contain your login test. Similarly, you have your potential test suite which will actually list all the test cases related to your potential suite. Right, so based on the test cases, we have made some suites and added the test cases into that. Now coming back to the data file, in the test cases sheet all the test cases would be listed. Then in the keywords sheet, okay, this is my potential sheet, fine. Now in my keywords sheet I have all my data for each and every test case. Say for example, for the create lead test you have the keyword. Now what are these keywords? Say for example, we have the open browser keyword, then there is your navigate keyword. Now keywords are the things which will actually drive the flow, and keywords can be reused again and again. Similarly, for my another test case, convert lead test, I have the keyword open browser to open the browser, then navigate to the URL. Then you need to log in into your Zoho account. Now over here for the login functionality, I would first of all have to input into my username text field, then input into the password field, and then click on the login button. So this login functionality is required for my create lead, for my convert lead, and for my delete lead test as well. Right, so rather than calling the same keywords again and again, input username, input password, and input and click login, rather than calling these 3 keywords again and again, what I have done is I have actually made a single keyword for all the 3 actions, that is your default login, which will actually allow you to log in into the Zoho account. Right, so this becomes your application specific keyword to log in into the Zoho account, to log in into the Zoho application. For that we have created a single keyword, default login, which becomes your application specific keyword. And then these are your generic keywords which can be reused again and again. Like after you log in into the account, you need to click on the CRM link, then you need to click on the leads tab, and then you need to input into the company name. Right, so in the objects column, now objects, the keywords can be reused again and again, but object names would be different. Objects would basically point to the XPath of the different elements on the web page, and these XPaths are actually read from the configuration file. In the app.config file we have all the locators stored over here. Alright, so object column actually lists all the XPaths, and then you need to input into which you need to input into the lead company, and what should be the company name. That data would be coming from the data column. Alright, so I need to input my company name. Now the data also I have not hard coded into my keyword sheet. Now the data would be read from a separate sheet, that is your data sheet, from which I have stored the data for my create lead test, the different parameters. Say for example, I want to read the company name of the lead, then the last name of the lead. So this data would be read from the data sheet, right? So out here into the input, for the input keyword, you need to input into the lead company, and what data you need to input, that would be coming from the data sheet corresponding to the lead company column name. So you have to be very careful while reading the data from the data sheet, that is, these are actually the column names. Alright, so this is how we will be actually reading the data, and this is how we have actually managed the data in the Excel file for the hybrid framework. That is, the keywords as well as the data, both of them are being read from the Excel file. Right, and right now I'm just telling you the outline of the framework. I'm not going much deep into the framework, how the code, how the logic is being written, how the sheets are linked, and how you are able to read the data from the different sheets, how it is being done. Right now I'm just telling you the skeleton of the framework, and then we will go, when we will start the framework, you'll get to know how these data are being read, how the framework is being made. Alright, now coming back towards the requirements of the hybrid framework, we have to read the data from the Excel file. That we have seen how the Excel file is being maintained, how we will be actually writing the data into the Excel file and reading the data from the Excel file. Then we will be implementing the test cases and performing some validation functions as well. Then we have to generate the reports, that is, we would be looking into how can we generate the extent reports. And if I show you a sample report, hold on, let me show you. Now when you will be generating the extent reports, every time you run the program, new report will be generated based on the timestamp. Now out here you see the test cases executed will be listed on the left hand side. Then you have all the logs generated for that very particular test case, and if the test case is failing, the screenshot would be captured and it would be added into your report file. Then you can even switch over to the dashboard of the report, the graphical representation of the test cases, the start time, end time, and total time taken to execute your test case, the environment related information, everything you can just have a look into this extent report, which you see is much better. It is giving you a more handy representation of all what is happening in your test case. All the logs would be captured, would be added into your reports, and how it can be maintained. Right, so we'll see how can we actually generate the extent reports, how can we add the logs in the reports, put the screenshots into the reports. We'll see everything. Then next we have to implement the grid, right? That is, you will be how to execute the test cases parallelly on the grid. Alright, so that also we will see. And in the grid, it's just the configuration that we need to add, nothing else, right? That is the JSON files, the Node.json files, and the hub files, and everything else. There is no coding involved while running the test cases parallelly on the grid. Then we need to have the reusability added in our framework. That is, you should not be writing the same piece of code again and again into your framework. Say for example, if I show you my framework, I have this generic keywords class with me, wherein I have written some reusable functions. For example, you want to verify the text on the web page. Then for that we have this verify text function. Similarly, you want to verify if the element is present on the web page or not. You want to verify, you want to click onto some element. So these functions are reusable functions. You just need to call these functions, and then no need to write the same logic again and again for each and every test case. So this is how we will be actually implementing the reusability in our framework. We don't have to add any repetitive code in our framework, right? So these keywords also, if you see, these are reusable keywords. You can just call them anytime for the different test cases, right? Similarly, coming back to the requirements sheet, your code, you should be able to execute your test cases on the different environments. For example, we have the production environment, then there is post production environment, UAT environment. So you should be able to execute the test cases on different environments. That also we will see. Then integrating the test cases with the Jenkins server. How can you schedule your test cases? Say for example, you want that your build should be running every day at 5 p.m. or every month or every year. So how can you schedule your test cases? That also we will see. Then after your test cases have been executed, your report have been generated, you want to email the reports to all the team members. So how it can be done? So for that as well, we have a separate piece of code with us which will actually help us email the reports to all the team members in the end. So that we will see, right? And then the most important thing is you should know how to, like, we will be actually implementing the keywords effectively, how to implement the keywords effectively. If you just check your data file out here, you see these are all the keywords, how to actually manage all these keywords effectively. You see open browser keyword for the create lead, then similarly for the convert lead also I need to first of all open the browser, then after that I need to navigate to the URL, I need to log in into my account, then I need to click somewhere, input the data. So these keywords, you see the same keywords, if the keywords are being reused, you can simply reuse them again and again. And the objects, it would be read from the configuration file. It's just that the objects would be changing for the different click functionality, and the rest the keywords would be same, the functionality would be same, to click somewhere, to input the data into. So this is how we should be, like, we would be actually implementing the keywords effectively. And then in the end, the most important, your code should be easy to change, because if something changes tomorrow in your website, then it should be easy to change. That is why what we will be doing is we will first of all building a core hybrid framework in such a way that it can be integrated with any website. Like for example, we have taken the example of the Zoho website. So firstly we will build the core framework which will have all the features of reusability, how you can add the validation functions, how you can generate the reports, grid implementation, adding the logs, adding the screenshots into your reports, right? Then how can you email the reports? Everything would be first of all done in the core framework, which you can simply integrate it with any of your website, like we have integrated with the Zoho account. Alright, so this is how we will be actually working with the hybrid framework. What would be the flow of the hybrid framework? This is what I have shown you. And as we go with the framework, you'll get to know how the test cases will be implemented, how the data would be read from the different sheets, and how it would be added in your framework.